On Tuesday, Desmond Bane had one of the worst games of his career. He said, "Everybody relax. We've been doing this for 5 years. I'll bounce back." And guess what he did? We're going to talk about that. And congratulations to Taylor Jenkins, becoming the all-time winningest coach in Grizzlies franchise history. Jaren Jackson Jr. continues to evolve. Another Grizzlies win after a loss on the second leg of a back-to-back. That's happened 3 times this year. Now, let's talk about all of it right here coming up on Locked On Grizzlies.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies. I am your host today, Damichael Cole, beat writer for the Commercial Appeal here in Memphis, Tennessee. Thanking you guys for tuning in with me each and every day on Locked On Grizzlies. Remember that Locked On Grizzlies, your favorite podcast, now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On Grizzlies daily newsletter. It's the one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at lockedondaily.com. Again, that's lockedondaily.com. Make sure you go start your day with the all-new free Locked On Grizzlies newsletter. We got a lot to talk about in today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies, starting with the Grizzlies picking up a win on the second leg of the back-to-back against the Philadelphia 76ers. We've seen this a few times this year already, where the Grizzlies, they lose the first leg of the back-to-back, don't really look pretty, and then they come back, get the win, and that's what they did in this game at home against the Sixers, 117-111. Of course, it had to be a little bit of drama in there. The Grizzlies controlled the game for the most part. Sixers came fighting back last couple minutes or so, but Joel Embiid had a really big game for them. He was at the free throw line a lot, to no surprise. We'll talk about that a little bit later. 14-14 from the free throw line for him, 35 points. But Memphis, they weathered it. They weathered it and got back in the win column due to some big performances from a lot of players. One of those players is Desmond Bane. He bounced back in a big way. But before we talk about Desmond Bane's performance, remember that today's episode is sponsored by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Now getting back to Desmond Bane. I was in the locker room a couple days ago, right? And we were talking, and this isn't any surprise to me with Desmond Bane, but I think some people, and I say some, and it could be very few, but I've seen some people had some type of concerns, or however you want to phrase it, about Desmond Bane and his performance since the oblique strain. Entering this last game against the Sixers, he was 2 of 16, I believe, on his last 16 three-pointers. Had a couple struggles in there, including one of the worst games of his career, period. That game, a couple games ago from Desmond Bane against the Denver Nuggets, you're talking about 5 points on 1 of 10 shooting. Didn't make a three-pointer, missed a couple free throws. He was a minus 24, team worst, minus 24 when he was on the floor. Completely flipped the script. But before we get to him flipping the script, we were in the locker room, as I was saying, and Des basically was saying, look, man, like, we've all seen this movie before, where he's going through a slump or struggling, or however you want to phrase it, and it's right after he's coming back from an injury or a long layoff of some sort, and then boom, the shots start falling, and then they keep falling, and they keep falling. Then you look up at the end of the year, he's shooting 38, 39, 40, 41% from three-point range, and he looks like one of the best shooters in the world. It's like clockwork. It's happened the last 2 seasons I've been here for sure. And that was the feeling that you got after that loss against the Nuggets. Desmond Bane wasn't concerned at all. He was like, look, I got 5 years worth of work that I put in that show me that, the numbers will even out. Like, it'll come. That's the way he said it'll come. And I don't know if he meant 24 hours later, but that's all it took. That's literally all it took. Desmond Bane in this game against the Sixers was one of the Grizzlies' most important players. Finished with 21 points. He had 21 points. Jaren Jackson Jr. led the way with 25 points. Desmond Bane had 21 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 of 11 on three-pointers. He now holds the all-time record for most games by a Grizzlies player with at least 5 made three-pointers. Desmond Bane now the solo leader of that record. So I say all that to go, say that 2 of 16 stretch. Then he comes back 5 of 11 against the Philadelphia 76ers, and they put some sound defenders on. Caleb Martins, I think, is a really good NBA defender, played with Miami Heat on some of those really good teams that went to the Eastern Conference Finals, NBA Finals, things like that. He gave Dez some trouble at times. He had a block on Dez and, made some good defense plays, but Desmond Bane looked good. And what I want to say is, everybody that was saying, I'm concerned about Dez or whatever the case may be, because I can't fathom why. Because you got 5 years of data that overtakes, 2, 3, 4 game, whatever, how many games he ever had, bad games he's had this season. But that little small sample size is nothing compared to what we've seen. Now, if you want to complain about some bigger picture parts of his game, then I'm all ears. Desmond Bane by no means is a perfect player per se, but he is a really good player for this Grizzlies team, and I think he is one that is good enough to help this team reach its ultimate goals. As a shooting guard, he is one of the best shooters in the world. He complements what Ja Morant does well, with Ja Morant's ability to attack the paint. He is a great, embodiment of a lot of the things that Taylor Jenkins wants to see this offense do. He wants to see guys get out running in transition. Desmond Bane does that, as well as pretty much anyone on the team other than Ja, maybe. He wants to see this team get up a lot of three-pointers and layups. If you look at Desmond Bane's shot chart, you're going to see a lot of three-pointers. You're going to see a lot of layups, a couple mid-range shots mixed in there here and there. But it's mainly three-pointers and getting to the rim. Desmond Bane kind of embodies what this Grizzlies offense is to become. With his passing, his cutting, you're going to see him cutting for baskets. You're going to see him making passes. In this game, we said 6 assists for Dez. Go back to last season. This was a guy who was pretty much throwing up 25 and 5 a night. Desmond Bane walked the walk on yesterday. He told everybody, be calm, be cool. I got this. I've been putting in the work, not just this year, but last year and the year before that and the year before that, and trust the bigger picture. And I'm not even trying to overreact to one game. It's one breakout game. I'm speaking more to the bigger sample size that we've seen from Desmond Bane. This game, this 5 of 11 shooting performance, was less of an anomaly than him going 2 of 16 over a stretch of games. That's more of the anomaly. Desmond Bane being 2 of 16 from three-point range, we don't see that. You don't see that a lot. 5 of 11, you can, again, more games with 5 or more made three-pointers than anyone in Grizzlies history. So that goes without being said, how capable he is of, getting hot and knocking down three-pointers at a high clip. And I get it. We all know that this is what you're going to need from Desmond Bane, especially, with the Grizzlies. Like I like to say, they're a mediocre shooting team at best. I mean, most people tell you they're below average, and that's fair. They are a below average three-point shooting team. In this game, they were better. 19 of 43 from three-point range. You got 5 of them from Desmond Bane, but you also got a couple from Jaren. You got a couple from Jalen Wells. You got a couple from Scottie Pippen Jr. How about the guys off the bench? Luke Kennard, 3 of 3 on three-pointers. Santi Aldama knocked a couple down. Jay Huff knocked a couple down. Jake LaRavia made his one and only three-point attempt as well, while also shooting 4-4 from the field. So you had a lot of players contributing to the stat line in this game for the Grizzlies, but we had to point out what Desmond Bane did. He walked the walk. A lot of people were saying, Dez hasn't been playing well. But this isn't the first time we've seen this. Even Taylor Jenkins pointed it out after the game. When Dez had the bad game a couple games ago against Denver, he talked to Taylor Jenkins after the game and told Taylor, I'll be better. Taylor Jenkins had no concern. He had no concern because he remembers when Desmond Bane had the foot injury or the grade 3 ankle sprain and missed over 6 weeks and the back injuries and things like that. But each time Desmond Bane has an injury, he comes back and, if you watch him play, there's a lot of movement involved in his game. We talk about how he likes to get downhill. So I'm not surprised that sometimes for him it takes a little bit longer than some other guys. But with all that being said, Desmond Bane bounced back. Not surprised. It was a great thing to see, not just for him, but for the Grizzlies, because the Grizzlies will need Desmond Bane to be an efficient three-point shooter to reach their biggest goals this season. You just need it to happen. It has to happen, especially when you look at the starting lineup and you look around and you say, that's the one guy that we feel like we can rely on from beyond the three-point line. Coming up here next on Locked On Grizzlies, we got to talk about Taylor Jenkins becoming the all-time winningest coach in Grizzlies franchise history. But before we get to that, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Listen up, everybody. Gametime. If you're going to any live events here sometime soon, whether it's a concert, basketball game, football game, whatever the case may be, you want to go to one of those big live events, you should go check out Gametime to purchase your tickets. And if you want to make it easier on yourself, Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets out there and trying to find the best tickets available. Gametime let me tell you why Gametime stands out, above these other places where you could potentially, go get some tickets as well. With Gametime Picks, again, it makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, events, theater, or whatever the case may be. You get all-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. You get the seat views. You get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Of course, you get the lowest price guaranteed. And if it's not the lowest price guaranteed, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. And then, of course, you get Gametime ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets right now with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code Locked On Grizzlies. That's capital L, capital O and ON, and then Grizzlies for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use the code Locked On Grizzlies for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Gametime app today, because what time is it, everybody? It's game time. Welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies, and we got to talk about Taylor Jenkins. Congratulations to the lead man himself. Taylor Jenkins is now the all-time winningest coach in Grizzlies franchise history. And let's lead this segment out by addressing the elephant in the room. I know everyone's not super fond of Taylor Jenkins at this point. The rotations have been all over the place. That I agree with. We saw the way kind of guys have been brought along slowly throughout the course of preseason into the regular season. As someone who is in the media room asking Taylor Jenkins these questions about these things, literally, I'm asking him about rotations pretty much every practice, every game. He's probably annoyed with me at this point, but, it's part of the job. And I hear his explanations. So, I don't get, I guess, as worked up as the fans do. And I try to explain, what he's telling me, what he's saying to us, to you guys, to the best of my ability. But some of it sounds reasonable. And there are other parts of it that, I just don't understand. And, we'll be talking about over the course of the season if they continue. But with all that being said, this segment is not to talk about much of the flaws of Taylor Jenkins. This is to celebrate what he has done for the Memphis Grizzlies in 5+ seasons as the head coach of the team. So I wanted to get that part out the way, because save the toxic stuff. All things considered, no matter how you feel about Taylor Jenkins at this point, what you should all agree with is, number one, this guy cares a lot about the Grizzlies. His preparation, his attention to detail. You talk to the players, you talk to people around the team, they all will tell you that this guy, he sacrifices time with his family, he sacrifices times with friends. He's very intentional about getting the best out of every single detailed approach going into the game. He's intentional about his relationship with the players. Luke Kennard was talking about it. Luke Kennard said, and again, Luke Kennard is one of the few guys on the team who's played for different coaches in the NBA. Luke Kennard basically said that Taylor Jenkins, and one way that he stands out is because of that intentionality that he has with the team. He's going up to individual players before practices to have an individual one-on-one conversations with them, not just about basketball, just about life. How's your family doing? How's the wife? How's the kids? How's mom? How's dad? Those little things go the distance for players. But the main thing that players like about Taylor Jenkins, the main thing, and when I say players, I'm talking like the guys that most of you care the most about, Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., they love the fact that they feel like Taylor Jenkins will go to war with them. Taylor Jenkins is not if you hear him talking, it's always team, team, team. He rarely talks about himself. I mean, this whole celebrating becoming the all-time winningest coach thing wasn't really his thing in a way. You kind of had to the Grizzlies players were saying in the locker room, like when they were celebrating, they weren't going to stop. They had to get him to embrace it. Coach, you just did something that's never been done in Memphis. You can't just deflect this. Embrace it. This is a historical achievement for you. So when you factor all of that in, what Taylor Jenkins means to this team, means to these players, and I'll go even a step further. Here's what Desmond Bane said. He told me. He said he deserves it, talking about Taylor Jenkins becoming an all-time wins leader. He said, he's the best coach I ever played for. He's my favorite coach I ever played for. That's what Desmond Bane said. Now, think about all that when, everyone's saying, oh, Taylor Jenkins is this, Taylor Jenkins is that. You got one of the highest paid players, top 2 highest paid player in Grizzlies franchise history, saying he's the best coach I ever played for. He's my favorite coach ever. And he is Desmond Bane's only NBA coach, if you want to talk about that. But the players love the fact that he goes to battle for them. We were just talking about with Zach Edey, right, with that foul. We were talking about it in the playoffs. In that Minnesota series, he called the officials out. He's called the officials out several other times. And there are other times when he doesn't even get a technical, or it's just something brief where, Jaren, or whoever the case may be, will get fouled, and Taylor Jenkins will go up to the referees, and he's demanding an answer in that moment. So with all flaws aside, again, because we're not focusing on that this segment, we talk about Taylor Jenkins' flaws enough, and we will talk about a lot of them going forward. But we will also talk about the things that he's great at. And he's great at building strong defenses. He's great at building a team that emphasizes rebounding. And when I say strong defenses, I want to set something straight out there. There are a couple misconceptions out there when it comes to the Grizzlies and their defense and whatnot. I've heard people ask me, and people say, and maybe it's because when you're watching the game and the opponent is hitting timely threes or something like that. But a couple people said to me, like, why did the Grizzlies give up so many 3-pointers? Like, why are teams shooting so good from 3-point range against the Grizzlies? Opponent 3-point percentage against the Grizzlies this season is 9th, 34.8%. You go back a couple seasons ago, 2022, 2023, last healthy season. Basically, we just throw last season out. Like, last season is an outlier. It doesn't count. If you go back to 2022, 2023, the Grizzlies were 9th in team 3-point percentage that season. Team opponent 3-point percentage the year before that, they were 11th, 35.1%. So you said 9th this season right now, 9th in 2022, 2023, 11th in the year they won 56 games, set a franchise record or whatever the case may be. So I say all that to say they're actually not bad at guarding the three. They're not the best in the league. Like, don't get it twisted. They're not, they're not blowing it away with, the way they guard the 3-point line, but they are not bad by any stretch of the imagination. So just wanted to put that out there. Like there's this whole thought process that the Grizzlies, have this. They're not a good team when it comes to guarding the three, and that's just inaccurate. They actually are. And even if you take it a step further and you talk about um how do they prevent teams from guarding the 3-point line? The Grizzlies don't give up a lot of top of the key 3-pointers. What they like to do is in corner threes, excuse me. They want you to shoot those long wing threes, and sometimes you run into players. For example, Rui Hachimura. I know that's a guy who's popular as becoming a Grizz killer or whatever, but if you watch him play those wing threes, he makes a lot of them. That's kind of where he makes his money. So sometimes you just run into those type of players who's just good at those shots. And for some reason, I mean, with the Grizzlies defense, they tend to live with that shot more than maybe some defenses. And again, defense, any sport, it's always give and take. You take something away, you probably got to give something else, or you're more vulnerable to giving up something else. In the case of Grizzlies defense, they're taking away the corner three, which is the most efficient three-pointer in the NBA, and they want to take away your ability to score at the rim. I have no problem with that. But yeah, those are things that Taylor Jenkins emphasizes. We know about the offense. The transition offense has been one of the best in NBA under Taylor Jenkins. The team has had an identity. Like, you can say what you want, but with Taylor Jenkins as the head coach, the Grizzlies dominate scoring in the paint. They are one of the best transition scoring teams. They're one of the best rebounding teams. Those things have been pretty much solidified under the Taylor Jenkins, in the Taylor Jenkins era. So congratulations to Taylor Jenkins. The players celebrated him after the game. They were in the locker room. They did all the pouring the water on him. I actually wrote a story about it. If you want to go read it more about the celebration, go to commercialappeal.com, or you can go to my X account at Damichael C, and where I post my stories there and pretty much everything in regards to Taylor Jenkins. So congratulations to Taylor Jenkins. Well-deserved honor. Guy really cares, about the Memphis Grizzlies. He cares about this team. He cares about this city. Anytime we go to community events, Taylor Jenkins is very intentional at those community events. You don't see him just being there going through the motions. He's there really soaking up the community and, really pouring into the Memphis Grizzlies community. So shout out to Taylor Jenkins for all of that. Coming up here on Locked On Grizzlies, we're going to talk about one of Taylor Jenkins' players, and that's Jaren Jackson Jr. But before we get to that, today's episode is brought to you by Chime. Listen up. When you hear Chime, you need to think cha-ching, because Chime is one of those places. Let me tell you about Chime. Chime is a place that made me get serious about my finances, because I remember when I was in college, and when you're a college kid, you got to eat, and you got those long study days. And I remember those days, in college, and I look at my account and it's like, ain't nothing in here, and I'm still trying to go swipe my card, and then they look at me in my eye and they say, Damichael, there's nothing on this card. But you know what? Chime is the place to take control of your finances, because you can take control of your finances right now by using a Chime checking account with features like no maintenance fees, free overdraft for up to $200, or getting paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit. Take advantage of these opportunities right now. Make your fall finances a little greener by working towards your financial goals with Chime. Open your account in 2 minutes at chime.com/NBA. Again, that's chime.com/NBA. Chime feels like process. How it works is you set up a direct deposit in your Chime account. After a qualifying direct deposit of up to $200 plus, Chime will notify you to enroll in Spot Me. With an activated debit card, Chime will spot you up to $200 when you exceed your balance. So your next direct deposit is applied to your negative balance, and Chime never charges fees or interest using Spot Me. So make sure you go take advantage of it. Again, make your fall finances a little greener by working towards your financial goals with Chime. Open your account in 2 minutes. All you got to do is put in chime.com/NBA. Again, that's chime.com/NBA, because it feels like progress. Jaren Jackson Jr. is involving everyone, and I want everyone to know that. And you probably see it with your own eyes, but I think where we see it is on the offensive end, right? I've seen it on the offensive end, and it's been fun to watch. Jaren just evolve into this scorer where he's more efficient, he's more aggressive, and he's doing it at every level. This game against the Sixers, 25 points, 8 of 15 shooting from the field, 2 of 5 on three-pointers, 7 of 7 from the free throw line. That stood out. That's a big-time performance. That's a big-time performance for Jaren Jackson Jr. But there was something else that I noticed in this game against the 76ers that made me say, man, Jaren's really evolving. Had nothing to do with his offense. Had nothing to do, well, maybe a little bit, but didn't have a lot to do with him getting 2 blocks and a steal. Jaren Jackson Jr. went against Joel Embiid for a large part of this game. Brandon Clark went against him as well. Jay Huff had some matchups again mixed in there. But when I watched that game and I watched the way Joel Embiid was, trying to get to the free throw line, Joel Embiid, very crafty scorer. He does the little up and under stuff when he's going to the rim, and most guys get caught with their hand in the cookie jar. 2 free throws, foul on you. Go to the bench. Go sit down. Jaren Jackson Jr. has done a really good job of staying out of foul trouble this year. He had 5 fouls in this game. But you know what? He picked up his 4th foul late in the 3rd quarter. So it really wasn't like he had to go sit for a long time. He picked up that 5th foul in the 4th, played through it, didn't get the 6th. I've peeped it for a while now because we were talking about this kind of last season too. Jaren Jackson Jr. was learning how to stay on the floor. And I'm telling you, everyone wants to forget last season and say, oh, it never happened or just delete it from your brain. Last season, we talk about with Gigi Jackson and Vince Williams Jr., how the Grizzlies discovered them and elevated them from two-way contracts and, what they've come to be for the Grizzlies. Jaren Jackson Jr. benefited from that season as much as anyone. The individual scoring role he had to play, the passing, the playmaking opportunities he was given, learning how to play out of double teams more after the year before he graded out as one of the worst interior passers in the NBA. All of that was crucial for his development. But one of the other things was Jaren had to stay on the floor last season. He got in foul trouble. It wasn't like, oh, okay, Ja got him. Okay, Des got him. Those dudes were hurt. Jaren goes out. It's pretty much it's it. It's toodles after that. Good night. See y'all tomorrow. Jaren had 5 fouls in this game, but it's been a season-long thing where we're noticing that his fouls have gone down. He's more aware. He's playing. He's using his hands better. Even one of the fouls that he got called for on Joel Embiid, I felt like he just had really good hands. Joel Embiid tried to do the little swipe through. Jaren swiped the ball down. And the referees blew the whistle, but I thought he had good hands on that play. But that's neither here nor there. The point that I'm making is going into that game against the Sixers, Jaren was averaging 3.1 fouls per game, easily the low of his career. Before that, 3.5, 3.6, a couple seasons was the low in Jaren Jackson Jr.'s career. And your first rebuttal to when you hear that Jaren's at 3.1, fouls per game may be the fact that, like the minutes restriction stuff, right? Remember all that? But here's the thing. With the minutes restriction right now, Jaren is playing 28.8 minutes per game and averaging 3.1 fouls. 28.8 minutes per game is actually the second most for Jaren Jackson Jr. in his career. The second most, because he's pretty much been in foul trouble ever since. So he can't even play 30-plus minutes because he's dealt with foul trouble a lot of years. The one season, which was last season, he played 32.2 minutes per game. And it's trending that way where he's going to get closer to that number. When he played 32.2 minutes, he was at 3.6 fouls per game. The season before that, he played, 28 minutes, which is where he is now, and he was at 3.6 fouls a game. So the fouls are down for Jaren Jackson Jr. right now. That is a huge development to me. One, because the Grizzlies are still playing Jaren at center in stretches. I know that's not like the greatest news for everyone here, but especially with Zach Edey out, you're going to get stretches of Jaren Jackson Jr. at center. The Grizzlies have been doing that in stretches, and when he's playing at center, he's more vulnerable to committing those fouls. Like when he was guarding Joel Embiid, that's when he was pretty much picking up his fouls. It's easier when you're trying to be that weak side help defender, and you're guarding guys who probably aren't, they're not really going to put much rim pressure on you, drive the basketball to your chest, and really cause him to foul that much. So when you guard Joel Embiid, who's a crafty scorer, who's trying to get to the free throw line and trying to, create those scoring situations, it's a little bit different. But Jaren playing through the fouls, especially when he had 5 fouls, if you got a way to go rewatch it, you should go rewatch how Jaren played through 5 fouls towards the end of that game. I was really impressed. I think that is a sign that he's evolving as a player. He's learning how to play around the whistle, and we see it. We call the veterans crafty, right? They know all these little tricks to avoiding fouls or to getting other guys in foul trouble. And this may be that type of development we're seeing from Jaren. I'm bringing it up now because, again, we saw it last season. That was the first sign. But now with more guys being back, you're seeing it again. So to me, I think it's very fair to have this conversation that Jaren Jackson Jr. he's learning how to listen to what I'm saying here. A couple 2-3 years ago, you were thinking you would never hear this, but Jaren Jackson Jr. is learning how to stay out of foul trouble. He's learning how to stay out of foul trouble. That's huge for the Grizzlies. There were so many playoff games we saw the last 2-3 years. Jaren goes to the bench, 2 quick early fouls, picks up third foul early in the second, 4th foul in the third, midway through the quarter, whatever the case may be. If he learns how to play through that, as dominant as he's looked on the offensive end, that will be one of the biggest developments for the Memphis Grizzlies. Thank you guys for tuning in to Locked On Grizzlies on today. And remember that your favorite podcast now has a newsletter. Introducing the Locked On Grizzlies Daily Newsletter, the one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right into your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Grizzlies newsletter. Shout out to my co-host Joe Mullinax for taking care of the Locked On Grizzlies newsletter. Make sure you go check out the one from this morning as well, as Joe continues to churn those out for us. And make sure you continue to tune in to Locked On Grizzlies, because we're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Next time on Locked On Grizzlies, you'll be with me and Joe Mullinax as we break down all things Grizzlies heading until the weekend. But until next time, like I said, remember that Locked On Grizzlies is free and available wherever you get podcasts. I'm Damichael Cole, and we'll see you on Locked On Grizzlies.